Come, lagi another key, you can start. Alright, welcome everybody to episode 7, I think it is.
That's correct, yeah.
Episode 7. And today we have a very special guest, one of the top content creators, I think, and on Instagram, and at least as far as Malaysia is concerned, extremely engaging content covering all sorts of topics from new releases to changes in pricing and as models evolve, as well as the now very famous Tiny Wrist series really guides people with smaller wrists in terms of what's wearable and what's not. Woody, you've also known as WatchaddictWT on Instagram. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you very much. I was surprised to be invited because I sincerely remember it was your wife that won this popular vote.
Yeah, oh, so sad. Yeah. She hence she's politely declined. But we also had a long-standing list of people we wanted to speak to, and I think what expedited this call to arms with you, especially not arms, but a call for you to the podcast. I think was because you mentioned, right?
Yeah,
I might. So maybe for that. Yeah. So I think best to get the man on before he.
What's the message?
Yeah, because I think in doing it by con call or even by Zoom, I think we all know for a fact. I think chemistry wise in the field and all that definitely be different. Absolutely right. And so yes, welcome. Happy New Year. I first podcast for the year.
Yeah, but it's a Chinese New Year podcast, so
both.
wondering why is there like angbao? So this is a different one. So for us, thanks for the part of this episode. There is 7 questions. Fun, but questions.
No, that's not fun, man. Fun is like we open and keep the money.
This is prepared by me with consultation of the wife, and some of the questions in this list is because we have a few friends from college. They have just started getting into watches, and the habits they are implementing into buying watches is very different. So it'll be interesting to see where
Stop buying Rolex.
I'm interested to see what's the take from everybody on the table. Sure. No worries. For the first part of the podcast, you are the MVP, so it's all about you.
Okay. So what do you want to know?
Maybe we can start with tell us a bit about just specifically your Instagram channel, your Instagram profile rather. What has the journey been like? Because I think it has been quite an amazing one.
Correct.
Tell us, go as far back as you want to, right? So when you started and what happened, it has become fair.
So I have to admit that watches was not my first passion. My first passion was actually photography. And so it was early, I think 2018, that I got into watches. And I started the very first post being a bit of a nerd already, right? And it was my research of understanding watches. And even way back then, it was more like, okay, I wanted to keep it very concise, summarize what I thought into something. The format didn't work for Instagram initially. But I figured no harm, I've done it already, right? So I'll put it on Instagram. Even if there's no traction, it's okay, it was a creative outlet. So what they were things about, if you talk about Rolex, the iconic Rolexes, right? What's a little bit of history about them. And even back then, I put a sarcastic twist on it already because I'll put a page that says, what's this person's view, right? This contrarian's view, right? And I would call out certain really irregular behaviors already back then in 2018. Of course, that didn't have much traction. But as I mentioned, photography was my first passion, which I eventually slowed down when kids and all that and decided not to do much of it. So I used that as a bit of a creative outlet to put information together. And then it became a place to test out photography. Back then it was just snap and shoot, stuff like that. And then there was an idea of, actually these are wonderful objects to shoot. So let me get started and doing that. And so that was what it was in the early days, in the early 2018 or so. It was just me experimenting, taking photos. And then back then, there used to be a few more it's like watch related, but photography content sort things. There was like communities like that, right? So every week there's a new challenge. So you just look at that and just submit. And it was still a very small thing. It was just for fun.
International?
It was international. It was international.
Many years ago.
This was 2018. So back then they were kids. Yeah. So I just did a bit of that. And as any account, right? It's very tough to grow it anyway. So it wasn't my goal to do it. it was nice when people followed for the photographing. And so I just carried on doing that. But that eventually, I think I upgraded the gear and all that because, again, photography was the passion first. And so it was just a way to merge the two. So 2019 came and went. It was me just doing a little bit of that. I think even then it was a few hundred followers at most. I didn't really reach 1,000 till I think it was in 2019 or late 2019 that.
It's quite recent. Yeah, I thought it's like way back. Like 2019 is like not that too long ago.
Yeah, so I don't remember it growing very fast. It was just very slow. So it was a little bit of infographics, a little bit of photography, and just mainly the watches that I owned and what I found unique about it. And I started to dabble into a bit of lighting, a little bit of macro and stuff like that. So it was really more about that. But when it really took off was really in the past 1 year. Now, there were a few things that I started to pivot to. But of course, it coincided with the fact that I think in many ways,
It coincides with the time I started following. Yeah.
coincided with around the time I met a lot of in the community as well, right? Yeah, but also coincided with the fact that it was also when you go down the slippery slope of buy and you happen to have a few more pieces and then you're constantly looking for the next one and that as a result taking photos of the ones you had and looking for the next one as well. So it was really, I think, even when COVID hit, it was still me looking at photography primarily and stuff like that. I think it was really 2021 that I decided I had become a little bit jaded with the world of hype watches in about 2021. This in the midst of COVID, everybody was consuming content about watches, right? Nowhere to go, nowhere to spend the money, right? And that's when the peak of Rolex hype was really starting to churn, right? And I was just so turned off by it. And I had no qualms calling it. And I was also turned off by Ming, turned off by all the way that they built hype. So the first thing I started to do was, what the hype lah? It's like, why are people chasing all of this? When it doesn't make sense to spend that kind of money when there's so many other watches available. So I decided, okay, let me turn a little bit of my own trained skills because I've been a consultant for a good 15 years of my life. And so I turned that into something I can use. So it's like, okay, we create some infographics to explain why it's silly to do this, right? So you put, for example, a GMT Master, 10 different watches you could have bought with the hype price of that one.
That was the series. Yeah,
And so that was, I really get a lot of hate from all the maintenance.
Actually, interestingly enough, because it resonated so much in a lot of people, of course there were people that they gave me hate, but I chose to approach them with a little bit of sarcasm as well. It's like, you do you lah.
Talk shit. I say,
If it works for you, great, but you do you lah. And it's okay, I'm just calling it out as facts because all I'm doing is putting a price of what people are transacting at and what the retail or everything is. There's nothing opinionated about that. It's facts.
Very real.
So if I put an opinion, it's in the caption, and most people don't read on Instagram. Let's just put it that way. Right?
Oh, we read out. You are the rare exceptions, but
It's people don't. It's like almost at the point here.
They still, I know, I read.
This is the behavior.
Right.
But it's like this, and then that, like this, and that. So I came up with that one, and also because as a spur of it, it's a bit like the consulting part also comes back to me. It's like, how do I create something of value, right? That's interesting and informative. So I went into this. New watches are coming out, but what's really the big difference between the old and the new? And the other unfortunate thing is, because of all the hype as well, all the brands were starting to raise prices without doing a lot to the watches, and they were increasing the price anyway. So then I decided, let me just do this for fun of it, right? I'll put the before and after, and you'll just be the judge. Is it really worth the money? And that became the Worth It series, right? It's like, is it really worth the money? All they've done is they've done this and this. Is it worth all the hype? Is it worth all the money, right? So that became the next series I came up with, which also gave a fair bit of traction. And these started to form the content pillar, so to speak. But it really only started to accelerate. If I were to call back to one post that accelerated, it was a photographic post. And that was the photo of the moon watch, where I took a reflection of a picture of Earthrise into the subdark.
Oh, I remember it.
That shot,
Yeah.
I posted on the second Speedy Tuesday of last year, 2022. And that was the first time a post really went viral. It just got reshared and reshared and reshared. I remember seeing where it was being reshared, right? You got all sorts of blue tick people, resharing it. I'm like, wow, cannot imagine. But at that point in time, I had sort of figured out a photography style and all that I like to do. And so that was a surprise, but I didn't expect to go much more beyond that. So all these series that I was doing were also on the side, right? So they also started to pick up steam because people were upset with the situation, with the hype thing. So whenever I wrote something like that, you also got reshared. And the worth it thing also became a condensed form. Because I mean, all those consume watching media, right? You have to read a Hodinkee article, you have to read a One and Raw article, right? But actually, all the people want to know is how much is it?
Yes.
What's the dimensions? What do I need to know? And so that series also began to pick up its full attraction. And then it was always a case of like, for me, in full 2022, okay, what else can I come up with that's different? And what would I want to see as a watch enthusiast, right? And I think it was just one fine day. And I think up to that point, if you really follow my content, right, I think even until first or second quarter of 2020, you would never find a single wrist shot of mine. I don't take wrist shots. And it was because I'm a very small wrist, conscious line, like shy line.
That's a really big wrist smaller. All three of us have to read out if we have because we can wear our watches with bracelet without even sort of I don't know, buy five.
But if I do it, like, you take the IKEA measurement tape, right, you will know, like, the only people I've met, I think I've met very few people that can either beat me or have an even leg. Most people are just a little.
I think Roy when you met,
Roy is one of them.
yeah, it's very small.
I thought he's staring at his watch, but it's wrist.
Yeah.
For this is very small. And it's basically when looking not at eye level but downward.
It's okay. I know.
So if you want to swap places, let me know.
It's okay. I can't see what.
Very sorry for our view.
So I'm going to there.
So I started taking wrist shots because I was very conscious of the wrist, right? And then I just took the first one. And because I do a lot of photography, I know how to play it down as well. I know how to make it look less small. So I posted one. And then people on Instagram said, actually, and I made the comment, I don't usually do it because I have a very small wrist. And I don't think it's that pleasant to look at because all you want to see is, you see the watch, you see the way the bracelet or the strap curves around. It's always very nice to see in those photos. I was never able to show that very often. And then one of the Instagram folks that followed me just said, actually, it's nice. Why don't you take shots like that? And then I was like, okay, if I'm going to break my stance of wrist shots, right, let it be something worthwhile. Like, what can I add to that would make it interesting as well?
Or at least you.
Yeah. And truth be told, I've been a friend of mine on Instagram a long time back. I used to joke with you. He had a big account, but he was very quiet for a long time. A Singaporean guy. And okay, shots, all these shots already, right? And then there's a bit of kiasu with me. So I'm like,
So good there somewhere.
and so it's like, hey, I do so much, right? And then I cannot get his type of followers yet. Okay, never mind. How do I one-up? It's a bit of one-upsmanship, and friendly one-upsmanship. Like, okay, I'll use it as a figurative target. I need to do more than that. So what can I do, right? And that became watches on a small wrist. Like, how do they wear? And I purposely wanted to find watches that were much bigger, but could still be worn. Because I had become very sensitive to that at the end of last year. It was really 2021, 2020 that I became very sensitive to it. To the point where I would notice all these little nuances.
And you created a chart, right? You created a chart whereby you did some analysis.
Yes, I actually have one. I never shared that in public. It's going to bore the crap out of a lot of people. It's literally an Excel sheet where I look at proportions and all of that. I've never really posted.
Have you taken Mark Chu's research?
I did. And that was really pleasing because he was doing something.
Yeah, because he was kind of known to that degree, right? Starting that kind of thing.
Yeah, but I couldn't help myself. So I actually had an analysis and watch proportions, thickness, and all that.
Consultant sidekick
did him. But I never published it because when I looked at it, even as a very simple
for your own consumption, for your own reference.
you sort of know because when you're a consultant, right, you know what the audience want to see. And if I look at it, also, oh my god, damn boring, damn geeky, damn dirty, no one's going to read this.
But they know they will pay for it.
Well, a certain client only. So, but then the audience wasn't going to be interested. So I did. The whole tiny wrist idea came from the fact that someone prompted that I should do it, and I thought I do it with some value add back again, and the consultant part kicked in again, right? So how do I explain this? Why is it a Speedmaster actually can wear on a small wrist? What happened? And this happened to coincide with me trading up my very first luxury piece, which was the moon watch as well, to the new one. And that was at the start of late 2021 that happened. And I was like, there's a fire that in me like sort of goes like, I need to explain it now, because if you ask me, right, it didn't ever wear as well for the past 10, 15 years. This current one makes a huge difference.
But you initially also, I remember the conversations, you also wanted the first Omega in space, right?
That was the
First one that you wanted.
Yes.
But then your friend talked you out of it, so you bought a standard.
Because you think, when you first get into luxury watches, right, you consult friends, because it's a big expense, right? And everyone say, between the first Omega in space and the Speedmaster Professional, safe bet Speedmaster Professional.
Get 4G.
I get 4G. And at the time I also get Hasselite.
And it's like, it's one of the, every collector must have a kind of thing. Who's the holding reference? Everyone talk around it, right?
And back then, this was like that. I bought that in 2018, So and that is time, right? It was more like, they say like, it's the first big expense, right? You go like, if all your people who you know what to watches tell you to buy, they must be right, lah. So don't be stupid and go and buy something else. So I bought that. And of course, back then, I never knew anything about the fit and all this. So just wear it, flash, whatever, right? So that allowed me to then open up the whole can of worms and understand that. But like I said, so coming back to the Instagram page, Pioneerist became what it became. It started to resonate with a lot of people because I was taking an angle that I tried to make it solve a few things. One, it became a repository of watches that people, if my wrist can carry it, 95% of the world probably can, of men's wrist can, right? But at the same time, what I was trying to point out to them is stuff that they should start paying attention to as well. Because if you have a bigger wrist, you might be able to pull it off. Like if there's a little bit of a flare at the top, if your strap can stretch out nicely, fold around, you're fine. Again, it's designed for a bigger wrist. It's not designed for mine, but it's still okay. So I built on that, and that became a bit of a discipline. And that's the other thing I've learned from my work as well, right? If you're going to try and build something that is going to succeed, right, you would really have the discipline. It was hard. Actually, 2022 was hard because I told myself, if I'm going to give it my best shot, right, do it proper, do it once this way, and then if you ever stop already after that, right, it's also okay. You try your best.
Yeah.
So, which is why I went on almost a daily posting sort, and it became a weekly thing because it takes effort to put that together. So that, after putting all of that, so the combination of what the hype, worth it, Pioneerist, and a touch of photography here and there, because I still also make the effort. I can't match WK's writing, but the one I full admiration of, like nobody. Yeah, so all admiration of the work.
Wow, thank you very much. But actually, it's written by somebody else. I have a quote like that.
Lovely. I'll get the word. But I always felt that it's important to put some sort of content there as well. So I just continued on that path. And I continued to interact with people, ask questions and all that. So all that in combination, hitting the right notes at the right time, a lot of good fortune, a lot of support from all of those who follow and reshared it, because I could try my best to be as authentic as possible. I'm not a brand. I've got no association with any authorized dealer. I'm truly just an enthusiast, right? And I call out what I don't like. I call out what I like. And when I don't like it, I try to be in the same way, the inward hazard, right? Consultants are trained not to offend your clients. So you also try not, even if you're going to be passive aggressive, you say certain things and you know when to back off, right? So I apply all of that into the channel that I created. And whenever I try to think of something new, again, it's a word hazard because consultants are judged by how much you value it. So as I'm thinking of what I create, so I'm always asking myself, what value am I giving when I'm in this post there? There are some that shocks and leery for consumers. But if I'm coming out with a series, right, it better be something different to something interesting. And so that no one calls me like, oh, he's just doing something that everyone else has done before. So I've tried to keep doing that. And I think somehow or rather, puzzling as it is, it resonated enough to build that sort of traction. I have no idea how it works. Every time you look on hindsight, I think this is how the algorithm works. The truth is, I can't say.
It must be quite wild. I mean, if you watch documentaries when people talk about, somebody's social media account rising, how they do this animated, the numbers going quite jam. It must have felt like that for you.
It did, and it's always in waves. So if I were to reflect, right, it's usually a particular post that you post at the right time, right content, and then that's a wave.
That's what they will always recommend and so, right?
Correct. But once you get that wave, right, you just have to ride it in a way as someone does. You have no way to control it. You can't create the next wave. You just have to ride.
When you see it happens, you have to.
That's the time you have to work hard.
Capitalize on it.
Correct. So when you see it happen, that's when I consciously will also go like, okay, the next few posts I have to be a little more clear about what I'm going to do with this, and it cannot be a short scenery post already. It needs to be something that I put a little bit more effort in until that wave dies down again. And when the wave dies down, then the best you can hope for is you find something else that hits, and when it hits again, you apply the same method one more time. So it's a bit of conscious knowledge of what is going on, but the truth of the matter is, as much as possible, I tried to remain true to my own interests and space. So that's really the Instagram account.
But just a question on that, I mean, because I mean, as fan the question, passion. But as passion kind of drives it, and we know that kind of propels us to do what we all do on the level, but different levels, right?
Yeah.
But do you feel at some point, I mean, it gets exhausting and it feels like a second job? Because you say, right, and you have to put effort into it.
Right.
You have to put a clear direction as to how you want to grow the page.
Right.
So in some ways, it's running a little business to say, right?
Yep.
And it's not so much consulting clients like what you normally do.
Yeah.
Technically, you're building a brand for yourself, right? Especially like your Worth It series, right? Because the things that are launched internationally, like 2 hours later, I see your post that you've done the breakdown, the comparisons, and all that. How does that work? You drop everything at work and like. The very guys who cancel client things and say, no, I don't do this in that post.
It's like bad, see the bad sign, like, sorry.
How's it work? Just so fast.
And I think that's
What's the trick to that?
actually there's no real trick to it. First of all, as a consultant, right, templates are already in there that I built.
Yes, I can see it's very systematic. And the time they suddenly went up.
And it was always a joke, because I remember every time it comes out, right, I have a joke with some of my watch friends. I go like, hold my, because I roughly know how long it's going to take to do.
Right.
At the very most, if it's only going to take 30 minutes to 45 minutes, which is an episode of something to watch on Netflix, right, I generally have no life. It's work, a lot of it, a little bit of home time, and when I have any free time, it's content creation, right? So for me, it's like, if it's the right content, the right watch, and I feel interested enough to build it, usually at the most, it takes an hour. It's refined to that level. In the initial days, it was harder. But now at this level where I'm doing it, right, it's only an hour that I need to turn it around. And I kind of know within the first 5-10 minutes whether I'll succeed or fail or put it. So it's a conscious effort of streamlining. So and that applies to all the other types of posts that I do now. So even when I pivoted now to get more people collaborating on Tiny in this tribe, it was also a fact that I needed to make sure it can be replicated as easily as possible.
That's even better, right? You don't need to come up with the content, don't need to struggle too much.
Type. There's still communication, but I know that I don't have to be the one that has to be there anymore, taking the shot and editing it. But I try and give back, because the whole idea is I don't need them to do a lot. I still will do the layout and all that. That's the part I refined over months of practice, right? That it becomes easy for me because everything is kind of there.
That's why my account is destined to be small, because I never spend more than 5 to 10 minutes. I'm not willing to put in the effort. And my wife is the stumbling block for me. Why are you always on your phone? Everything I post is shocks and something like. Well, I don't create.
No, I think that I absolutely love the doodles that you do, because it's so you, right? It's something like no one does. I love the writing that you put in,
but we now know it's a minute. Sorry, it's a private joke. One up the older.
It's okay. So point link them to that episode and you'll figure that one out. But for me, it's the fact that it's where I've channeled most of my creative energies to. It is a commitment. So to answer your question, it gets tiring.
You also get tiring for I can't say for everyone, but for me recently, I also get really tired. So I don't even post that often, because then it's the daily post, and even an investment of 5 to 10 minutes, I put out.
I think they post out
For the moment, yes.
Yeah, it is definitely.
For the moment, yes. But I am conscious that it will not be able to continue already. And so it will come a time where
With your new job.
with the new role and all that, I have to commit a lot more time to that. I was able to do what I was doing primarily because I had optimized the way I was able to do it already. And whereas other people had other things to balance their stuff out, for me it was like I worked very, very long hours, and I'm usually at the desk anyway. So for me, this was my creative outlet. So you ask me, right, you pay for Netflix, Apple TV, whatever, I'm basically wasting money because I'm actually at my computer creating content for some time anyway. And I, in the initial phase, because it's a bit of chasing a target as well, because it's like you see the waves, right? It's exciting.
Of course.
And so you go like, there's something to drive you. But of course, there are days where you go like, okay, why am I doing this, right?
Was it for?
Wasn't for. But then at the back of my mind, I went like, my line of work has taught me that you need to have the discipline to do something if you really want to push something somewhere. And so it was a combination of internal competitive kiansu that I set little targets for myself to get certain things done, right? And the fact that I just told myself, it's just discipline of action. If you can spend that half an hour, which you would normally have, I would have normally just burnt away just browsing the internet or watching YouTube, whatever, right? And I channel it to this. It's serving some other purpose, and so I just kept doing that. But there are definitely times where I go like, today I really don't want to do anything now. But then I go back to the back of my mind where like, I've got plenty. I just go take my repository, put something out, shorthand write something.
I think that's what we all do.
Yeah, correct. But yes, it's tiring for sure.
Especially you're doing it day to day, right? It's even more time.
Correct. And so there are some days where I know it's terrible because actually content creation is really hard work. People talk about why not you do a YouTube version, a video version. Even this podcast, I know how much effort you have to put into it. Yeah, it's incredible.
It's really that simple. We have just as regular freeloading. We just want to drink water in the cooking. It's the least we could do.
And I completely comprehend how much effort there is.
We started. I mean, the question was, we want to go into this kind of.
I think all it does is sustain.
Yeah,
That's another question.
with the meetups. It's I didn't really get very wow.
Correct. So I'm very conscious of all of that, having in my own humble setting created content, right? That is always at the back of my mind. If I commit to a series, it needs to be sustainable enough. That means I know I can create this at least running for a few. If I cannot write, it will be one-off. I already can declare in my head this is going to be one-off because it's too much time. I won't be able to commit it. But in the early days, it's a bit like learning something new, right? It's exciting. So you spend time like.
But on behalf of the tens of thousands of people who look forward to your content, please don't give up.
Yeah.
So even when you start on your new adventure, please keep it up. Please take it further. But most people are looking forward to your content. I wish there's stock tips like come up, help me for itself, buy itself. Then we'll give you more money to buy new watches. Is this supposed to how much money we're gonna spend for the next watch?
Just see, right? If I could figure that out, right, I don't need to work anymore now.
That's what I'm trying to give you. This focus, this creative first.
So is there any series which is already in the backlog that got tending to launch?
So I just launched Splitting Seconds.
Yes, I just launched 30 seconds. So that's something I'm experimenting with. It's only in its pilot season. So it's on YouTube, 15 seconds. It's a ton of
Singapore after it all. We have watched it as well, the first round.
Yeah, the second was dropping to the time that's recording tonight. And yeah, that one I purposely quite fiery one for the fun of it because that was the whole purpose.
Isn't 2 years picking the community,
The fanboy.
What else the
Tudor fan was a Rolex fan.
well, and
But yeah, James is the more diplomatic one. I always call myself the contrarian, right? So
James have two hours in the work that location, so sorry, James.
I think James, if you ever put James on, he'll tell you he doesn't need to do it. So he's got his own way of doing it. But so yeah, that's a new content format. Even that, because I know how much effort goes into it, because I see how James does the My Watches podcast as well, right? It was also intentionally designed to be as simple as possible. And so also going to try to think about how to refine it, but that also depends on traction. So if it doesn't resonate so much with people and all that, eventually I'm going to have to kill it. It's just knowing when you have to pull the plug.
But you don't know until you try it.
Yeah, correct. So we're going to try it for a few episodes, and if the traction is there, the interest is there, we'll just continue, and we'll refine it to be more streamlined and effective. Because we all have day jobs as well, right? So trying to make sense out of that.
Unfortunately. Yeah, unfortunately, actually, I jumped into your question. We go back to your question. Sure.
Well, wait, sorry, the question was,
Yeah.
oh, hey, actually, that also answered the measures, right? Because he's saying that is anything after 3 seconds.
Well, anything after
Really, I don't need to declare now, but you can just say, like, you have things.
Your plans for like Instagram, right?
Instagram, voice, YouTube, alright, yeah, right.
For the moment, it's primarily going to keep the Tiny Risk Tribe idea free. Because I like the fact, actually, that's credit to you guys as well, because the idea of a community works. And a community that feels that they're able to contribute and create some kind of repository like this, right, is going to be good for everybody anyway. So it's a bit of, I have to say I have to credit you guys for giving me part of the idea. I saw some things, I'm like, actually that makes sense, but I'll be a bit more focused on it because that's the part that people want it to continue as long as possible. And I'm also acknowledging my own limitations because I can't always have access to all the wonderful watches that will fit my wrist. At the same time, I may not have the time to meet them up as well. And
And people want their watches to be featured, right? Correct. And so used by friends of aha moments, right?
Correct. Like the first one that just dropped a few days ago, that's a wonderful time to the Chopard Alpine.
Yeah, appreciation is underrated, but the dial is like amazing. Because the bracelet is very bling. So this find the bracelet really bling.
But all the watch media that you see online, right, it's for the 41. I'll talk about the 36. Everyone overlooks the 36, but the 36 is...
Because the watch media all suddenly behind.
Correct.
Player, Parago, the Renato, there's actually 38. But everyone talks about the 42. I bet not anymore, right? I think they discontinued. Is it? I heard, yeah.
So nothing else at the moment, but to be honest, I'm constantly thinking about it. But being someone who's done it for a year very heavily, right, I'm constantly thinking about I can do, but it has to be sustainable. Like, the one that resonated recently also was who was the real copycat, right? The idea that the Grand Seiko that I see in front here is an Explorer 2 copy. Everyone says that, right? That's an Explorer 2 on
Because of the orange shaft, then.
because it's a black now,
The keys,
bezel, that big bezel, there's a big bezel, there's the crown guards, and all that. So it's an Explorer 2 copy. They have like, everybody, there to be something. So, and some people did suggest that you can create a series out of this because they've seen the trend with me already, right? And I'm like, I like the idea, but that's when I also know it takes a heck of effort because I need to do my research, right? At the end of the day, one thing I've tried to stay to form is if I'm going to put numbers or facts there, I try to be correct so that you make your own opinion. Even if you don't agree with me, right, you can make your own opinion. I leave facts on the table for you to consider.
So, but also for your own credibility, you need to make sure that the facts are correct. Right?
Yeah, agreed. So nothing else planned, but I'm constantly open to ideas, but I'm very conscious of my own limitations as well. So as far as I'm concerned, the Tiny Risk Tribe the Tiny Risk Thursday will definitely continue way into 2023. I'm hoping to keep that running for the whole year. If Splitting Seconds works, I'll continue to try and do that. And I'll continue to think up new stuff that made, and worth it if I can, to the joke that you made, right? Do I drop everything my maid work in order to do, right? As long as the timing works, I'll still try and do that. But if the timing doesn't work, I'll just miss the window and I'll miss the window. That's okay. But everything else for the moment is just leaving ideas brewing. And if it works out, right, pans together, then something comes out. So in short, not really. But I'll admit that I'm always cooking something at the back and tasting it myself. Yeah.
All right, big. If you're comfortable to answer this, you can answer. But is WatchAddict monetized? Is there any plans to go into monetization? Because amount of effort you're putting in,
Right.
and you're building close to a micro influence level of followers.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any plans as a?
Remember the time when you asked about the follower question? That's
such a question my wife asked.
Yeah, then you said to me like, what about?
Because I'm pretty sure your family also sees the amount of effort you put in
Right.
to what this channel has become. And is there
Your family is the wife.
This is my wife. She's my greatest stalker support anyway, and I thank you very much, dear, for that. So I think the reality of the matter is it was genuinely a passion project, right? That picked up traction and grew to what it is today. If you're asking me whether I've got plans to monetize it, well, one way or form or another, it'll be a bit wasted if I don't try to. But at the same time, I'm trying to figure out a way that I can do it without having to sell out in a way, right? Because very often what would then happen is you have to have a product or you have to sponsor something and all of that. I haven't quite landed on something like that yet. And I also know if you want to do a monetization like a YouTube thing and all that, right? I know how much effort goes into NAS videos. Really a lot.
And I think the thing with the algorithm more,
Right.
it's actually much harder now than it really like way back when a buck and deck started.
Correct. It gets harder for anybody starting new. I reflect, right? I see full accounts. It's like they get so big so fast, right? Because they were the first bowlers, right? It gets harder for people later in the game. So to answer your question, it's not off my mind, but I'm trying to figure out a way that I can do it. Again, back to the theme that I'm going at, right? I need to be able to do it sustainably because I still do have a day job. And I still want to make it interesting enough that it remains interesting to me to do. And to come back to his point as well, that it doesn't end up becoming a job as well. Because the truth of the matter is, unless you are a huge account, but YouTube in particular, right? It's very hard to make ends meet monetization-wise. Plus, you need that many views, right? But make it work.
To that point also, I think I've seen that consume quite a fair bit of YouTube. I think the ones that really monetize it or come to that degree, right, actually has a need. Nobody has not done it like without with themselves for the longest time, right?
Correct.
Even Buck and Jack, even the guy that does Swiss Watch Gang. Actually, you see there's a lot of people behind it.
Agreed.
They're doing the pictures, the content.
Agreed.
And Invalid Star is a good example, like how big he is growing like recently.
But I think ultimately they all also from content creation pivot to some sort of a sales channel. Like they all have something that's happening.
It is very alternate cover stream, otherwise it's very hard.
It's very hard to be a content creator alone in this current day and year. Right?
Unless like every video hits 1 million views or something, then okay, you've got some serious money, but otherwise.
Or you do something that will that's highly controversial to begin with, or that sells like the typical oldies or media VHS, right? Do something that maybe by trying to stay true to what it is that I prefer to do. So it's a bit wasted if I don't think about it, but at the same time, I'm not landed on wanting to push that angle so much because I know that we have to change the way I look at things as well.
Yeah. If you notice, by the way, we have just helped ourselves.
Okay, go ahead. Walk around. I grab it for.
Please go. But it's sanitize it later. No worries. Of course, I gravitated to Grand Seiko first, but I wanted to pick up on something that you said, and that you say quite often in your posts as well, in your captions, about being a contrarian, right? And what does that really mean for you? What are the sort of the pillars of your contrarianism, if there is even such a word?
Okay. As a broad base,
maybe they come forward a little bit because we're leaving the cameras.
oh sure. No worries.
Then you have the relaxery.
So I think why I use the word contrarian, right? Generally, if something gets hyped up too much, I turn off. So the more something gets hyped, right?
And what's the basis for that? Is it because that the pricing becomes ridiculous as a result of the hype, or
Is the pricing? Is the fact that why something is appreciated for what it is disappears as well. Pricing is definitely part of it, and a lot more mindless consumerism happens with hype. I gravitate towards people who really enjoy what they enjoy, know why they enjoy it as well.
like how the watch?
It's all good. That's 100-meter water resistance, yes. And on a navel strap, you'll be fine. So I think the reality of the matter is, the way I look at it is, if something is no longer, and I think you pinpointed it quite well, it is no longer worth the price, and a lot of the price factor comes from hype. I usually turn off. And I'm looking at it and saying, it's the big deal about this that it's trading above a certain price. You know, that it's just that, so
Insane, right?
it is absolutely insane. And also, you can start seeing the companies put so much less effort and milk it even more, right?
Yeah.
And people, again, like a mindless like I don't know what to call it, word sheep or something. It's just like and social media is evil because of that as well, because it keeps like an echo chamber. You no longer process whether it's worth it or not. You just go like, everyone says it's good, so it must be good lah. Everyone says it's worth it, so it must be worth it lah. No one questions anymore. No one has the intellectual curiosity to say, why is it worth it paying this over that? So for me, my contrarianism stems in the watch world stems primarily from that. I'm genuinely anti-hype. And so I can start off liking something, but when I start realizing that a lot of people like it and they can't tell you why anymore, right? I start to distance myself from it. And when it becomes a case of like trading way over retail and all that, right? My mind completely starts building a wall already. It's like, I don't want to go near this because it doesn't make sense anymore.
Is this the same case that if you go to the watch?
I would say so. I feel sad when that happens. Meaning to say, of course, as a person who ultimately would want to, if I ever quit watches, right? Of course, you want to retain some value in them eventually, right? But I find that it's sad when it be a piece that you own becomes so hyped because it denies people the ability to enjoy it in the same way you did, you know. And you also meet a lot more people who are not enjoying it the way it was meant to be, things like that, right? It starts to bother me as well. So I actually call things out like that as well. As like, if you're a new version, it's like, no, we can't even wear it, we can't even buy it. I don't think it's worth it. And that's where the whole worth it comes from. It's like, I call out brands that I myself buy. It's like, is Grand Seiko worth that money now? I actually don't know anymore. Is Zenith a watch that I really love? Is it worth the money now that they're asking for? I don't think so. The truth is, I don't think so anymore. But ultimately, it's your own choice. I mean, if it's your money.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point because, like, you could say that anti-hype is now mainstream.
Right.
It's now mainstream to be anti-hype.
Yeah.
Right? And that to be accepting of the hype is contrarian. You could even say that.
Actually, that's a fair point.
Yeah.
And I guess, in a way, reflecting back on the points we spoke of earlier, I think part of the part that I wrote as a wave as well is I was one of the first to be very anti-hype. And now it's become normal to be anti-hype, right? And so as a result of that, I happened to be at the right place at the right time. Speaking my mind when everybody was trying to be like, I want to be friendly with the brands and all that. And I had no calls because this was never it was really a passion project for all things considered. So contrarian for me is just, in a traditional sense, is just being anti-hype. But you're absolutely on point. It could be now that being allied to hype is cooler, that is breaking the trend.
Not cooler lah. I mean, I think it's very normal. Like, if you are coming at something, whether it's watches, cars, whatever, right? Whatever is your passion, your hobby, your interest, your area of enthusiasm, and you like it for a particular reason, whatever that particular reason may be. Like for us as watch enthusiasts, we like the heritage in the watch, the build quality, the design, the movement, the history. There's so many things that we like, right? As enthusiasts. But enthusiasts are a very small part of the watch buying crowd, right? So the majority of people are not enthusiasts. They may say, oh, I happen to know that watch. I happen to know that it went to the moon. I happen to know that it's a very famous movement, but don't ask me anything more about that.
Yep.
But they like the watch because it is also popular with everybody else. And whether we agree to it or not, some people like the notion of fitting it. If everybody in their social strata has a Daytona, let's say, because Daytona is famously hyped, right?
Yeah.
They also want to have a Daytona because it allows them to fit in. And it doesn't mean that they're buying the Daytona despite hating it. Maybe they like it, and so they buy the Daytona, and so they've joined the hype. But my kind of contrarian view also is that, okay, go ahead. If you can afford it, you're not making stupid decisions and not paying medical bills or whatever in order to buy a hype watch. I mean, to me, I think it's okay. And I wouldn't buy, say, a ceramic Daytona, right? But I wouldn't call out somebody who does either because I don't know their motivation. I don't know why they're doing it. I don't know. Actually, they really, 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 really love ceramic Daytona, regardless of the hype. So I think contrarianism, I just wanted to clear that up and understand what is the pillars of your contrarianism.
Primarily anti-hype and when people are paying over premium over regular production watches.
So your over premium is 2 times. No more.
As long as you're paying over the retail price of a regular production watch, I will always hold the view that I will happily debate with you that whatever you're doing doesn't make sense to me. But if it's discontinued and all, there's a different argument because there's a true sense that you're not going to be able to get it anymore. But if you're talking about primarily watches that, for all intents and purposes, hundreds of thousands are produced a year, right? It's like paying more than the retail price for an iPhone. Why? As much as you love it, that's your money, I know. But
It's the culture now, like there's the portion, right? And people have a tendency to buy because they want to show, especially on Instagram, right?
Correct.
Or Facebook, that I am the first to get this.
I agree. And that is the part that I will purposely, from my own personal point of view as a contrarian, I will always take that side that talks against that whole idea. Only because I've got personal own beliefs as to, and to summarize the whole point of view as to why I take that point of view, right? I genuinely believe now is not so bad, but it's still one of the worst times to get in mainstream watches. In the Thai history, right, now it's one of the worst times because hype has taken its impact. Prices have all gone up. Because of the hype, everybody feels that they have to price around that price because someone has led the way already, right?
And customers are buying.
So when all of that happens, and for me, it's like that denies more people the ability to enjoy the mainstream. Of course, there's micro brands and all that. Don't get me wrong, there's another space to enjoy as well. But because of this new consumer behavior, the joy of watch enthusiasm is starting to feel like it's only reserved for people who are really, really rich with the means to pay for it. If you rewind the clock 5 to 6 years ago, if you could, actually, if you made a decent wage, you could even get a mainstream watch at that point in time. You can't anymore. And that I feel very strongly for. So, yes, it's their money. Yes, they can choose whatever they want. They pay double, triple, whatever, right? But for me, it's one whole big system. As long as you are buying at that price, it sends a signal to the rest of the world that the price is right. And all the other brands should therefore allow themselves to raise the price that way as well. And it becomes a very slippery slope, and it's a domino effect. So I will continue to take that point of view, even at my own detriment, unfortunately.
I mean, like hype has taken over not just certain brands or certain segments of the industry. It's taken over that part. That's nice. But the entire industry, right? I mean, you have hype micro brands, you have hype mainstream brands, and you have hype independent. It's correct all across the board. So I mean, it's a lot to stand up against, I guess. Yeah. So for me personally, and I think we established this very early on when we first met. The difference between you and I is that for me, like whatever you like it, go for it. Correct. This is nice.
Yeah. Why don't we?
This is the second time we said it. The third time we asked like unity.
For not around hiding right there.
I wouldn't go over it. So we're talking about the being contrarian. Maybe then we can segue into the watches.
Just go say, man, this is so well conditioned again. Let's go back.
This really. So I brought a few here. The watch here that you see is a ball watch, right? This was actually my very first mechanical watch, and this was way back in 20.
This is the one that the wife bought, isn't it?
Yeah, this was when my before she became my wife, she just told me that it's probably time you bought something that looks a bit decent, instead of wearing like fossils and all. And I was like, okay lah, let's go and look like. And she is the tastemaker for me in the sense that if I see something, I try to make sure I check with her and I'll still define her. Even if she says no, right? But it's more like, if she says it looks good, most of the time, not always, she's right.
And there's all the fonts, and generally women have better taste because they've got good fonts, kind of look like the Timex Merlin.
Yeah, actually, I realized what they were copying was the old Glashooter original 6.
Yes.
It was actually a copy of it.
Correct. So I do on sale, I think on Mingwa, nobody touches it. There's two. I always find it, yes.
So that was the first watch I got, and even back then, it was like, I didn't have the means to play with it, with all of this.
So your girlfriend, wife,
So she paid half of it. I paid the other half, and I wore this to my own wedding as well, and I'm married to her now. So this is a watch. Even if I don't wear it very much anymore, right? So if people always ask me the question like, if I had to keep only one watch, right? The truth is, it's going to be that one. Everything else that will go, because that's really where the whole relationship, I can tie back to it being starting and all that, right? And it's nice to have something like that to remember. So that's one. Then I think I brought the Zenith. So that was not the first one.
Zenith. What's Zenith? Where got?
That's why I believe very
I bought that. I made a post of this as well, that because the first luxury watch I bought, and it was like, you count the years, right? 7-8 years later already, right? That was Speedmaster.
Yep.
But that was after seeking out advice of friends for you.
Wrong advice, should have bought the first Omega at the space. Still the value, right?
It's okay. For me, it was it's a slippery slope thereafter anyway. But the Zenith was the first watch that I had the conviction to buy without consulting people. That means it's more like what I like.
You're confident already.
It's like, I like this, I want this. I don't need to ask what other people think anymore about it. Right. And that was my second watch.
But part of the being contrarian, I mean, they did play to this because this is not the common thing that you see, right? A lot of people gravitated to the speedy. A lot of people what it is a big color.
It's a tricol.
Yeah. I think we discussed this because I personally also wanted one.
Correct.
And you so
I got it before it became a big thing. I mean, it was already iconic. If Zenith,
especially those days, even now, it's nobody really recognizes. Nobody, when you see so few in a while, but when you see it, you appreciate it.
Correct. So I've always been a fan of chronograph. So that was the one I chose to buy on my own. I got it for a great price from retail as well. That was on
I just back.
This would be 5 years ago. Yeah. So
the great time to buy watches.
Yeah, that was a great time. It was
heavy discounts, 30%.
Correct. And so that's one I brought as well. Then you see a couple of micro brands there, right? I went into a whole micro brand phase in 2020 and 2021 because that was around the peak hype, right? And that was when all the stuff that people that you normally want to recommend, you can't anymore. And I realized there was so much value and when brands in the micro brand space were doing something very unique. And those are usually the ones that gravitate to me. I don't usually gravitate to those that are homages, very close homages to something. I like the ones that you can see that they took design cues, but it stands on its own sort of thing. So there are two over there that I'm still going to hold on to, although I have to admit a few of the others I'm letting go off just because they're not getting risk time anymore.
I think for the last time I met you, I mean, the ones you introduced, I mean, see these two.
They're still there in my box, but I didn't let them go on because I let them go already. But I'm keeping these two for a bit more. One's the Serica, the black one that you see with the left-hand drive. I purposely got a left-hand drive because I wanted something different on the wrist.
Change your strap.
Yeah. And
something nice.
And a Dietrich.
This is nice.
So that was a 2020.
Was this a Dietrich at Marshall? No, the one it was blue, right? That's when you walked out.
So I think when you attended the event, this was the only one in the collection he didn't have.
Yeah.
So that was irony, lah. So I told him that it's a shame I couldn't make it because that would have completed
the
display of
set, right?
Yeah, but Dietrich has decided to take a break. He's a great designer. He's taking a break from all of it.
Yeah, I think I learned from Marshall.
But I have to say the guy is an amazing designer. Credit to him. I hope he finds peace in whatever he's doing now because he's a brilliant designer, but he found doing watches a bit too stressful. But this will be a watch that as a design piece, that green one that you see over there, that will be something that I'll be very happy to keep for a long term as well. So I have no plans to sell that model. 2022, another thing why you asked me to bring the watches, the three most recent watches. 2022 was the year I opened the gateway to vintage because I was very afraid. For a few reasons. One, it's actually quite scary being in the vintage space. As I know, I had a splitting circuits episode that I voted on vintage, right? But James is actually correct. It's bloody scary to be in it.
Yeah, especially when you don't know what you buy.
You don't know what you don't know. And there's so many things that can go wrong. So even though I won the popular vote, right, actually proof, right, he's factually correct.
Sorry, James.
The reality of the matter is I was always afraid to do it. But the first one I got, and I call it, it's like going to a casino, beginner's luck, right, was the Hoya that you now have as well. Right? It was such a great experience to find something like that it was so addictive. And I went down another rabbit hole. So right after that, I got the one that Dennis is wearing, the
which I think from the first pot, you said that you wanted it to become a non-hype or at least turn vintage to some extent, right?
Yes, correct.
And how true
I've always been a fan of GLC, but all the modern memo boxes are way too big.
Yeah.
And so I went back in the past. In fact, I remember I was at the boutique and there was this limited edition one that came out 1 or 2 years ago. It was a blue dial memo box. Really beautiful.
There was the one you were drawn to, right?
Yeah, the drawn that I realized I can't wear it. It's really nice. If I ever open two, yeah, I think it was a 40. If I ever open the vintage space, I'll look for one. So I went and found that one. And then the one that came after that was the Brightly. I'm a huge fan of the Navy type. Always have been. But I just cannot wear it. And so I dug the entire rabbit hole. I went, looked at all the past references, and I was like, there was 1 or 2 I saw that might work for a smaller scene. But because Breitling Vintage is not big here, right, you almost cannot try it, and buying sight and see it's a bit scary, right? For
Interesting.
So I landed on the Chronomet, which I also bought sight and see. But to me, it was more like you take a leap of faith, it's OG, stuff like that. So that's what I got.
So was there any issue with this one? Or was it nice? Saying
Well, everything has a little bit of a hitch. So this one, so the thing about old Breitlings is they're almost all Franken watches, almost all of them, right? This one also has got something not correct, which is your center chronograph seconds. It's supposed to be a red hand, but they got the right hand, but it's just in blue. But for me, I don't mind it because it blends nicely with the rest of the watch. Otherwise, it looks a bit too colorful in a certain way, right? So that's that.
was that a fact new when you bought it?
Yes, it's valid. But it didn't bother me because I like the lower key version of it as well.
And range hands are really nice. And actually, for this kind of age condition, at least on the dial, the you can still see the color. All of them, if it's worn here, but it actually starts to fade.
And the lost water ingress, I reached the dial and all that.
So actually, this one is pretty intact because you can see the full markings.
That's probably like one of the top 5 pieces of yours that I really, really love. That's just beautiful.
And vintage,
And then once it sits on the wrist,
and the fonts. I go for fonts. I think vintage fonts are like, you know what it's big.
Correct. The thing about vintage is they always look better in person. Else you can't do the warmth, the silver tone, right?
yeah,
You can't do it justice in photos.
the way the full material soak up light like a bit of a sponge. The camera just picks it up as harsh.
Correct.
Right? Your eye sort of interpret it.
I'm sure you posted this maybe a week or 2 ago. It looked nice.
Yeah, it probably did.
Yeah, so good.
Then comes the one that even Dennis gives me crap about.
What did I give you crap?
The World Chinkill over hell because
What Rolex?
But it is quite a kick-ass. If you were to buy a Rolex, then this would probably be it.
yeah.
Alright, I think this Rolex has, big celebration towards the growth of your Instagram account, but to throw back to an early episode you guys did with James in my Watches podcast. That episode, we all know that you were quite critical towards how the brand is going forward.
Correct.
So, what's the story with this?
Right. So you're absolutely right. Then there's also a reason why when we did the Splitting Seconds episode, right, I had to take vintage because I actually am not more of a fan of modern. But the problem with vintage Rolexes is they become really, really expensive.
Yeah, that's correct.
And all the sports models are priced really beautiful. They're really beautiful pieces. And yes, because of the scarcity as well, the prices are going to be very expensive. And for me, one of the things, unfortunately, I have to say, I have rules for myself also, and it's not for everybody. But I set rules so that I don't fall down a rabbit hole. As I've already fallen down the rabbit hole, but if I don't have rules like that, I'll probably be 7 gates of hell by now, right? In fact, I always call this risk, as tiny as it is, my blessing and my curse. Because I feel if I had an average size wrist, my wife would have divorced me, I've mortgaged the whole house already and all of that. So it has protected me. So coming back to why this, right? I always felt I know friends have always said that you won't understand until you own one, right? And a part of me, there's an itch I wanted to scratch. But when I looked at all the prices of all the sports models and also the sizes, I couldn't justify any in today's market anymore. So I started talking to friends who were more into Rolexes and all that. And then we started to look even further back in the past, right? I go like, if you're going to get one and it's done, right? Where do you go, right? So you could do a sports model, but the reality is you get a sub, for example, for whatever price it is. Then you go like, hey, actually I want to try the GM deals.
Yeah, never had it.
He never had anyone, you know.
I think it's a
Right. But so I may have to reveal a little bit of my own personal rules that I apply, right? One of the primary principles that I apply even in the vintage space is the watch cannot cost more than the current model hammerlock version of that watch. So when you look at all the sports models, and all 5-digit Submariner or 4-digit,
4-digit,
forget it.
Yeah, 5-digit maybe still.
Maybe still can, but even that at the retail price, they're all higher than it already. The truth, almost all.
Hell no.
Yeah.
Because 2 years ago, even before COVID, I just got for a friend, 4-digit, 5-digit. It was actually below the retail of next. Yeah,
correct. But now you don't get them anymore. So for me, I was like, okay, if you're gonna get one, right, look at the other part that I like is I look for something iconic about the brand, their past, and you go as old first as you can. So I went for what was the original flagship of a Rolex. But because I applied those rules as well, it was more like, I like it being a little understated. I know everyone tells me, like, if it was yellow gold, president's bracelet and all that, right? It's too much splash. I like the fact that people come up to me, right, if they see me wearing it, that's a nice day just. I'm like, thank you. It doesn't, because I've succeeded. Because the whole point is, if they haven't picked up that it's a day, right, I've won already in my mind, because it's like that was the reason why I got a white gold one that looks like steel. And it wears on the strap, right? So it looks like my father's old watch, right, that I'm just wearing, right? No one bats an eyelid about it. And that's why I went down the path. It was like, if I was going to get one, get an old OG flagship that started something. So it's like the first full date watch, right? And then I'll be contented. So I don't even feel I need to look at Rolex anymore. So this is where I decided start and stop sort of thing. And then came the final piece, because that was the same mentality I applied. I always tell people, as contrarian as I am, right, I'm also guilty of eating my own words. I think I put on the most weight eating my own words and all my voice.
Recent new purchase.
Yeah, with whatever I think, right? It's like my actions speak louder than my words.
But then again, it's a test.
Yeah, it's and so I've never really been a fan of Cartier per se. I admire them for what their designs. I genuinely think that the tank is great. I genuinely love the Roman dial. It's like from a mile away, right? And the Cartier, right? You know it be
especially the tank. I think there was a person saying, I think the tank is 100 over years old.
Yep.
But was it that came back from the past and see it now? So you instantly recognize it every tank. I think
correct.
No other brand has a kind of a testimony, right?
Correct. So I keep the realization that I looked at current Cartier catalog, but because I was in the world of vintage, now I actually look modern and I look in the past at Time Machine as well, right? And so I looked at Santos and I've always been a fan of square watches in a way as well. I love the Monaco, the Tag Heuer,
Which is too big.
I just cannot wear it.
I also didn't buy it.
And thank God, so I didn't buy it. It's just way too big.
So the only other one I could look at was this one, Santos. And I still had my biases, so I was like, and truth be told, not easy to find, and I'm not flashy in any which way, right? So the two-tone is beautiful. I genuinely think if you have to go for one, the two-tone is the one that you go for. But for me, I was always like, I love even the old CP Santos, which is overly priced, right?
Such as CPC, we were just talking about that a day ago.
Yeah, it's so nice. And so I wanted the closest thing I could find to that. And it happened. Okay, so funny story about this one. Without really revealing too much, right? I'm leaving a firm which I've been in for 11 years. It's been a long time, right? And the day I was going to tell my only boss that it's time I was going to depart, I saw this listing. And I was like, it was the night before I was going to meet him to tell my decision, right? And I said to myself, okay, if this listing is still here tomorrow, after I will go and get it, right?
Even at Woody's level, we all create our own.
Where get it from, by the way? Japan. Oh, was it Japan?
Chrono.
It was a one of the Japanese so I think they have online shops and all that. It was one of them. I can't remember which one off the top of my head. I think it was Regalo, but
Yeah, regardless, has all
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
the 2 liters.
yeah. So I saw it, and the next day, actually I forgot about it because I was so emotionally affected and drained from my conversation. Right, I completely forgot about it until like I was about to go to sleep. She was like, I see something yesterday. And then sure. Then I saw it there. So I'm like, you know what? Heck it lah. Let's just do it because the price was okay and all of that, right? Took a leap of faith, and it was still there because most of the time these things disappear in an instant.
Yeah. I do the same thing, right? Sure, I'm not bad. Just give you a few days. See when it got, I regret. But I called it real. It was not the best time. It didn't work because I just lost the one.
So for me, I was like, actually, that's the other thing about vintage I learned also. If you like it, you want it, right? You have to get it there.
And I was so crazy. Right? Yeah, I don't know. You go through it differently. I go through 24, but Bruno 24. I mean, for some reason, you find it, right? It's already fit. Even you are a bit should buy it. If you don't take it, right?
And like, you have to walk away. You have to accept that you have to walk away. So by virtue that this was the last acquisition that I had, and I felt like I'm going to eat my own words again for sure. But this was me trying to close the door on the journey of vintage, because where I don't buy modern, I look at vintage. That means the ones I really like, right? I go back in the past to find something that I would still like, and I've ticked all my boxes in a way. Right? So 2023, right, is really a adventure as it is. WK knows what I have lined up already. I've already procured my first watch of 2023. That's a very slippery slope that going down as well.
But also, it's a hype slope.
No, there's no hype to it. So it's consistent to my style. But it's a very dangerous place to operate because it's the one of the few that still operate at that price point, you know. And everything else there in that space, right, will operate in a whole deep already.
The stratospheric.
Yeah, so I'm trying not to go there, but that's where I'm going with this. So that's really where my watch journey has brought us so far. I'm sorry, I'm rattling on like always.
But it's all about it.
We do it. This is how it is. We never send you questions ahead of time because we ourselves don't know what's happening. Our guests don't talk when in trouble because that is all nonsense. Then we do the talking. We have to do the final question.
I'm sorry that I was to me.
So the Cartier is the closing door for it.
I consider it, but I said I might eat my words, but it's for me, I go a bit like, and yeah, I'm a sticker for my own rules, right? So I created my own rules for it. It's like,
I mean, but like you said, that the rules are created as guardrails, right?
yes, it's more,
Naturally, if you feel that you can cross that path,
right.
by all
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. I couldn't put it better, right? And as a guilty work hazard again, as a consultant as well, right?
Yeah.
You know how to bend the rules, right? You know, if you create rules, so I'm such a fuck up. Rule. Yeah, actually, look, if I didn't put those guardrails, I genuinely think you would see a lot of ridiculous stuff here.
Would you slowly remove all the rules when you have those rules for instance, like you say, it can be water retail or maybe let's say 30K or some things. Would this slowly go away as the journey continues?
So the one that I know will eventually usually go away is a price limit, because that's dependent on your comfort or how much you're willing to spend.
Absolutely.
That one will never stay with. So I know that for a fact that will evolve.
I remember when my limit was like $500, and I'm sure we've all been there, right?
With that, where that's the beauty of when Seikos could be got at that time as well. Now you can't as well.
Well, now I will try to buy that because it feels good, right?
Hey, but you found great value, man. So be a fan, cannot go.
That's why I always tell him the best value is to find a great piece at a good price, in good condition. It's like a 100% win.
Yeah, so much satisfaction.
Compared to when you buy like a $100,000 watch.
That's great, sure, for sure.
So that's one rule I apply. The second one so if I look at them as hurdles, right, which one will fall first? So it's not more okay. To answer the question, right, they will fall one. They will fall one,
That's all you want to hear from the watch and think.
Yeah, the hurdles may eventually fall. But I think the first hurdle that will fall is always the price one.
Yeah, for sure.
The one that I try very hard to stick to is the fact, the price needs to be lower than the retail of the current model. Because that's just something I hold very personal.
It's a good. But then again, the rule constantly changes every year because of the price increase that we're going through, right? And certain brands like JLC change it 3 times last year.
And right now it's very hard to accept the GLC prices as well. Very hard. So that is the one that I doubt will really distribute. That's going to be a guardrail I will reinforce over and over again. So even if that one starts to fit right, I'll reinforce that. I think the other one that may fall, and that one is also because of how much you may like something, right? Is that rule that I apply that every single piece that I own, right, needs to be the first of its own in something. And I know it's anal, but it's something that just keeps me grounded. So it allow me to do the research. So even if it's a micro brand, right, as silly as it sounds, it must be the first time they did that something.
First in Kickstarter.
So it needs to be the first. Let's say it's a dive watch. It's the first dive watch that they created. It needs to be first. I realized though when I looked at my collection, there was one that I didn't realize I broke that rule. I thought it wasn't. But yeah, that was one of it.
Wait, which one is it?
It's sold.
Wait,
It's still the collection, but it's relisted as to be sold.
It's like the long ones, right?
No, it's the newest one. Because I thought that was their first DLC. Actually, it was. They had one.
Because it is not their first, you've decided to sell it.
No, it was more because I don't wear it also. So it's just the fact that I apply all of this as procurement guardrails. That one may fall. That one I don't may fall because I may come a point in time where they iterate something, right? And even as it stands, because I mean for me it's more like even the Zenith is not the original one. It's tricolor A386 whatever, but it's modern version already. It's no longer the first, so I loosely tie the string together. So these are things that I will ban, but the one that I'll try very, very hard not to ban is the one that I will personally reinforce the guardrail is the one about paying more than the retail of the current catalog model. Simply because I feel that the moment I break that one, I become the hypocrite I don't know what to be. That's why I hold so firm. It's actually what the hype, where worth it all stem from.
Yeah.
I become a hypocrite of my own self already at that point in time. So until I become that guy, right, I will try not to.
quite a lot of rules are falling out from you guys hear it first. Yeah, out of the 3 rules, 2 is potentially falling soon.
Well, the price one will always fall because that one is more like what's your comfort level.
Yeah. Because I remember when we spoke, you actually had a price point where
I have pushed it already.
yeah, it's gone out. Finally, I can see the comment by the it's gone out.
I pushed it already, but I have to admit that's the new ceiling.
Yeah.
And it's very slow to go up.
Very, very slow to go. Not as fast as the Swiss hit that.
And I'm just hitting that at some point in time, I'll adopt what WK said also. It's like you will find a piece, right? You just love, right? School rules, it's just get.
That was one of my actually my own. I feel that do not have this.
I know for some point in time it may fall, but for now I don't intend to break that also.
Yeah. Because there may be a feedback about that. Actually, no rules apply emotionally. You will just fix them.
And it's like, screw it lah. Life's more fun than it. Yeah.
Just having like every time I meet you, Woody, and I play with your watches, I'm like, oh my god, I want all of them.
Actually, it works the same for me. If not for these guardrails I put, right, already will have RZE lah.
No, I think it's really because of sizing.
Yeah.
Because like you've got such a finely tuned appreciation for the right size for your wrist, which also happens to be my wrist. So when I put it on, it's like, whoa.
Yeah.
Immediately, right? Everything works. So I can be almost certain that whichever watch you ever buy, I must never see it like it. I must never see it. I must never try it. 99% chance I would love it.
So let's say, you first first.
No, I mean, so like sizing is a big deal. And I don't know about you, but for me, like, design and all of those things, if everything is equal, it's the sizing that really turns me on to a watch. Right? Because when it sits on your wrist, it hugs your wrist, whatever, the proportion to the width of your wrist, the length of your arm, all of those things, right? Once it's right, it's like even a less pretty version of a particular watch becomes more enticing when the fit is right. And you mentioned that I think it was a year and a half ago when you started the Tiny Wrist series was when you started to get really sensitive about sizing. For me, I started to get really sensitive to sizing about a year or 2 ago as well. It has been really life-changing for me in terms of what I pick up. I just wanted to understand from your perspective, what was the trigger? What was the turning point where you had bigger watches or watches that maybe were less appropriate for your wrist, but something changed?
I'm glad you asked that because that's the reason this watch is here as well. This was the one. So this is the Grand Seiko 9F GMT, right? Okay, I'll admit this on camera and all that as well, right? I am going to be at some point in my life guilty of being a snob as well. So I remember back then, right? Buy your quartz watch. This is a quartz watch, right?
So cut it off the house now.
This was back then, right? So it's like, you're looking at watches in the system. The first time I encountered this watch was when it was launched, it was 2019. I remember that point already. I put it on, so well. I chose to erase that memory because quartz are the one I want to get my spring drive and all that.
It's when you bought the spring drive, right? Because we did the pod first time, I think you had the spring drive already.
This one, when I first tried it, yes, I don't think I bought the spring drive yet. The first time I tried this watch, but that was it planted a seed already. So like, I remember wearing it like died, and then when I eventually went to try and acquire it because I had reached a personal career milestone at that point in time in 2020 during the heat of the pandemic past as well. I went to the boutique, I tried it on, it was exactly what I remembered. That fit, right? Like, wow, what is this?
Okay, the curved look.
And so I bought this, and that was the tipping point.
Right.
Because once I felt that, right, every other watch
And light bulb went off.
is that glass shattering moment you hate. Because once you do that, right, watches that don't fit anymore don't fit.
Yeah.
And the first one that screamed bloody murder to me was my first luxury watch, the Speedmaster.
The one
161.
It's two
Floats, and actually it's floating lux.
which I told you kind of seemed like the Zenith you told me. The new one, he's the same. Actually, he's all floating.
So I started looking at this, like, this curse, right? Then I was like, oh my god, then it was sentiment. Yeah, right. I go like, my first luxury watch, there's sort of feeling, right? It's like, oh, I cannot unsee, And then the next thing that it hit was also one I really liked, which was the snowflake. I had the snowflake involved. And I sold it to end with. And so, I went all the way abroad to get it at a premium price at that point. Like premium as in still retail, but no discount and all that. Malaysia is still one of the best places to get brand Seiko, by the way. That one also was like, he'll die already. Because that's the other watch that was going to be on the bubble. Actually, at the start of this year was when I switched out both. Upon realizing all this, right, and it eating into me for a while, right, after a year, I started them out already. It's like, the time has come. It's not going to fit well, right? They have to go. So that was really,
So it was a GS.
it was this GSG.
I didn't know that Grand Seiko changed his flag. Never knew that.
I have very, very similar sort of experience when it comes to sizing. Because like once you find your right size, it's very hard to ignore sizing. Right? You can have, let's say, two watches. One, there's something about it that you don't like. Really, like in your case, initially it was the fact that it was quartz. Right, initially, there's something that you don't like, but the fact that it wears well, it will win over one that you love everything about it.
Correct.
But the size is not right.
Correct.
So the sizing is really, really so critical.
So I never mentioned that as a hurdle, but that one's always going to be there because that one is almost like a given rule already, right? You don't break it anymore because even does way well.
It's not even a rule. I mean, it's just like wearing stuff. When you wear a suit, it's got to suit you. It's got to fit you. And it's just as simple as that.
And some people, they don't know. So when they buy a suit, they don't know that after a while, these things
it takes time to
and refine it next time because it is a reputation. It is a real you can find it. Because when you just get into it, because like I think most of the smartwatches these days are huge. Like they're 42, 40. Like to them, it's not normal because and they get into G-Shocks on it. That's worse.
G-Shock is the other problem.
Alright, if like
How much time we have left? Sorry, time check.
off time. Yeah,
How much time did you have? We want to make sure we're not eating in tight.
I love the Yom chat session.
Yeah, because for us,
When
When you're talking to the genuine no-night one,
we had the first you were spending a lot of time.
as we're saying, like you have all the rules, you have all the guards and everything, remove it. And what's the watch?
oh, I don't have one.
I do this.
I don't with my concept of grails, but I play with the idea. Because same as a watch enthusiast, you play with the idea, right?
Because these are all things that you consume, right?
Okay, I think this is what always everybody asks us. What's your free watch collection? And then we get a trick to you.
Okay.
Yeah, I felt the tough one. Yeah, with the free watch collection, yeah. Without the I can't even get down the tree. Yeah. Without the guns and everything, without the price point, everything. Yeah.
The great thing, Benson, is this question has been asked to me before, and I've got an answer. It's almost like a prepared script answer, right?
Like show me your camera.
So if it's a 3-watch collection that I had to decide on, right? It will definitely I'll keep this one. I will most likely keep the GMT for the fact that it's just no fuss. I don't have to worry about it. It just runs out. The battery runs out. And then it'll be a toss-up between something else that I keep. That one, the third spot, I'm leaving open to whatever I feel like.
But when we were in that position also, it's like I can decide two, but the third one, I keep it open.
But the truth of the matter is, my first major answer to that question is this: pick the gun and fire it. It is like if you put the gun to my head and said, take and fire, because actually it's no joy already.
Yeah, so
Okay, right? If I really had to do it, that means that time has come for me to do it. The truth is, I'll sell everything. Keep this one for sentimental purposes only, and buy an Apple Watch. And just be done with it.
So guys, that's a simple. Let's be done with it. That was so if I can't have it, I don't want it. Take me 6 hours to get the resonance. I want to get the 2 on.
I don't want the pain anymore. It's like,
No, but it's really giving up. It's not what you have, the question.
I don't want to go to that pain. That's why I say if it's a gun to my head, I rather you shoot it. Because the truth of the matter is, if you really told me tomorrow I have to be 3, right? I will tell you what, I'll hold on to this, we'll start sell everything goes. I'll buy the latest Apple Watch until it cracks, and then I'll buy the next Apple Watch after that. Because now I've got a reason to wear an Apple Watch already.
And the sizing is not too bad for the Apple Watch. It
Could not try it.
it's not too bad.
Yeah.
Interesting.
yeah, but I mean, Apple Watch is not about the joy of the watch. I don't care. It's like I don't even. I wouldn't even change strap. I wouldn't even. Even the sentimental one will make me want to look just again. So
And we all hope that you never reach that. It's very sad to reach that point.
So even if I used to that one, right, I probably won't wear it already. It's just like except for the same ones and
it's sort of it's a memento rather than a watch.
Correct. So the watch will become the Apple Watch and nothing else. Yeah.
So if you just standing around can follow us or treat like not for winning, based on all the watches there, how many watches you up to for?
Is it?
It's all about
Episode 9.
9. Yeah. Which is the 3 that you picked for Woody's collection? Denson,
Harry for sure.
such a cartoon.
Is it right name though?
The Brightly
Yeah.
and the Day Land. Yeah.
I think I would take the Curry, the Breitling, and the Did It.
I'll be on the first between the memo box. Because I'm a bit of the books.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can. How about your slice?
This part for sure. There seems already again, you know. The memo box.
I kind of anticipated. I didn't bring the Did It here. I didn't bring the Zenith here.
Yeah.
I did with the Korean one.
Whenever we want to do like a watch presentation, it's always very paiseh because it's always on his hand. Then when we reach the watch,
I take it off. And then now I don't do the Did It.
if he doesn't take off the watch, then we start to perform. No, and then he still doesn't take it off. But then I asked him like, hey, Dennis, forget about the watch now. Can you take it out?
But to be fair, and just kind of, he told me the reason before, and I like what he says because it says, I can feel what it's like.
Exactly. 100%. I need to wear it already at least 2 hours.
Don't put the ball free, but
There was a round until that point.
Sorry.
When you were talking about feel or it is still legit.
Yeah, but for me, the 3 is the Zenith, the Memo Box, and the Did It. I think it will be the 3 that I keep. I think between the two.
Actually, I think I will take the Zenith over the Did It.
Yeah.
Because I didn't see it there because somebody was wearing.
It's like, I wish at the time is the style. Yeah. Okay, sorry, so we digress.
Yeah, I think the Brightly is something very special. Without
Now the bright ass, gorgeous.
I got very lucky with that one. So
And from the US,
it's not around you.
and you were late at night, you were browsing.
Oh, yeah, that was.
or the memo box. Okay,
This
so
one I have mulled over it a while already because I genuinely scanned through all the Breitling resources to find a very timer for stores. I found a 38. There was something about it that spoke to me but didn't speak to me at the same time. And I realized what it was. It was the one that I liked about it was in this. That means that one had taken elements from this watch.
that's what we're talking about from the design or the design itself. Design
Was homaging this song. That's why I liked that one. It was very different because it's
so the DNA is
it was there. They took the DNA from this one. Yeah.
Then we start this thing. I started playing with the watches.
What happens, you realize every episode, once we start to dig our paws into the watches, then we sort of like, we fade away. I feel so sad for the bye viewers.
This is part of it now, and then staying in. But it's a very well curated collection.
It's fantastic. Also, WatchaddictWT.
And then, yeah. So for me, it's like for 2023, right? I feel a lot of things happening with your life. A lot of things, great things have been happening to the channel. Thank you. I mean, what is watch exploration like for yourself? Okay. Either from an acquisition level or from a content level, but maybe about acquisition first.
So the acquisition, as I alluded to, right, I have taken my very first leap into the world of independence already. I have placed a pre-order for a Fabric 2.
I wanted to say a bit for that. Okay. Why in particularly?
I had the chronograph to have, and this is a guy that really knows how to make it, and it's also priced at a point that's not ridiculous yet. It's still very underrated. It's not.
I was to contextualize ridiculous, right? He's not ridiculous in the context that you've been following the brand for a fair bit, therefore you know what prices are, or you're saying that it's not ridiculous in the comparison of the indie world.
I think even all this while they've kept their prices relatively stagnant for many years. I don't think they've actually did.
She's yeah, okay.
But
Yeah, how's I am? They haven't. No hype has started up to them yet.
It's the husband and wife team, right? Yeah, husband and wife team.
and so for me it's my first foray into it. I don't know where I'll go after that. That's why I've alluded to it just now. It's like it's a very slippery slope because any other independent is likely going to operate in a much higher price range than that one. Just to give a price reference, right? Whatever the price of the watch is cheaper than probably what I paid for the David. That means there's such a thing as getting an independent at that price. At that price. So it's one of the few that you still can. Of which it's not just the dial side, because there's a lot of independents that dial side very nice, but the movement is outsourced and stuff.
Yeah, it's always a China movement and a
So in this case, it's
micro,
not blood. Independents, I think some of them use the Val Fluorium.
Yeah, some of them they still use the Bosch, but it's heavily modified.
Correct. And there's some that have really nice dials and all that, but that's the price point, right? But anything else above that, in Malaysian ringgit, it's like in the 6 figures, which is to that first hurdle that I mentioned. I'm not there yet. Like, I kind of turn that hurdle down. So for me, it's about exploring that, because the truth of the matter is when I reflected on my journey, right, and friends that are close to me who are not even watch people will go on. I actually decided I was going to close a chapter at the start of 2022 anyway. I thought I was done. And then I opened the vintage portal. In combination with fit and all that, right, that opened another portal. I'm closing that chapter now because I figured that in a way, if I were to walk the path of a watch enthusiast, right, I've touched micro brands before. I've touched mainstream brands. I've touched new vintage. I've touched vintage. What's left, right? And it seems to me it's the independent space, and if it's whether I like it or not. I mean, if I don't, it's okay. At least I know I've walked that path, and if I choose to U-turn back and operate in this space again, I also know why I'm doing it.
She's great. And to me, I'd rather do that than to say like no, but I've never really experienced it. Then what you're saying, no, right?
Because I've self-declared watch addict, right? And you cannot.
I really think the name.
So I'm just naming up to my name. So for me, it's more like taking the journey that I want to take. It's like if you call yourself, let's say, a person that climbs mountains, you will look at all the mountains you want to climb, right? So for me, it's one of the last paths that I feel I want to experiment with.
The unexplored
in a way. Because the only other things I can think of that I've not done in the watch space is things like going to a watch auction. But that was you want to buy ridiculous stuff already.
Yeah. which I've been hearing a lot recently, which I cannot imagine or fathom myself doing that.
It takes a whole different level of enthusiasm to do it.
But we have started Yahoo being quite fair. Because I think that's the only kind of
But I think you can, because like Japan sites as well, right? They're very good prices, it's better than anybody.
We are auction.
So experience the auctions it is.
So for me, I think it's the pivot is more in terms of procurement. That's the first one. I don't know where I'll go after that. I really don't. I'm letting that shape my taste after this. With the channel, it's really opening it up to, and whatever new idea I'm proposing to do, right, is also taking the lead from what you guys are doing. It's a bit like, if I can get people involved in it, it'll be more fun. Especially this second was not done with me alone. It was done in collaboration with someone else. Even Tiny Risk was something to collaborate with as well. Because it's an acknowledgement that I don't know what my work is going to be like in 2023. It might be heavy. I might not be able to do that within our time and but I want to keep the passion alive. I want to keep the interest going. And I want to continuously be able to have fresh interactions with the community, right? The watch community. Because these are the people that make this hobby fun.
Yeah, and these is the people that speak the kind of the same language. And supposed to speaking to relatives that say, I want to buy a Rolex. But actually, why you buy it again before you do the whole thing? Yeah.
So that's where I'm planning to go with it.
Nice. Yeah. Do we go to unbox with you?
Yeah, just maybe like worry about time. As I see, if we can close on a positive note before we get to the unbox, because I know we're going to have a hell of a lot of ask probably. Yeah. We talk about what's wrong with the industry in many ways, right? Especially in terms of your contrarian view. Yeah. We've talked about rules which tend to limit people somewhat. I want to end it on a high if we can and ask you, what's WatchAddictWT's view on what's right in the world of watches right now?
I think what's right is, if anything, the positive of what the hype has created is the democratizing of information about watches. I think now more than ever, right? If I reflect 5 years ago, the only resources you would have was maybe for a few of the primary blogs, forums. I think there was even a watch snob on, there was a watch snob article somewhere as well.
A watch to blog?
Yeah, there was a very few blog to watch. Right?
Yeah.
I think the democratization of that is amazing.
Yeah.
Because it allows people to learn so much more.
So fast.
So fast, very quickly. I'm also very happy to see a much greater appreciation in micro red space as well. Because they are really filling the gap of what's left as a vacuum by the mainstream.
Yeah.
You can get into a really nicely made watch. Beautiful design, right? Done well for the price that you can never get from a mainstream anymore, right? I think these are the two things that have definitely resonate. And the third thing, if I could, for all the negatives of social media, is allow people like us to connect.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, without that, right? He was almost like Sharks and in your own right?
Yeah, he had no more will to live.
So I think that would be my treat. These three things, democratizing of for me.
Nice.
The fact that micro brands are getting a lot more credit, which they deserve, and the fact that it allows us.
Yeah, especially I think Instagram is a great space. If I didn't venture in the Instagram space, I actually wouldn't find anyone. If I went into the standard local Facebook page or
somehow,
which I would not name, but
Facebook versus Instagram. I think Instagram allows you to curate very vertically.
and in the minute, like how even
Facebook is very horizontal. There's all this other stuff.
it's like you cannot find stuff. There's no way to find an address to who you are, right? Like actually, how I found you was through Francisco, and I directly can just go to him because the guy said like, what's his channel, right, or what's his page? But isn't that a high note? Or
And it's a very high, especially because you are now a happy man. So when you're happy, life is
I have real friends already.
free watches to wear.
Yeah. Don't forget, the Zenith is there.
Hey, I'd like to try and wear it at some point.
Fine.
Let's do the unboxing.
All right. Okay. Sounds good.
Yeah, I don't know what we're doing.
There are no real money here. And
What a bloody waste of time. Let's just end this here.
Waste my fucking.
so there is 7 questions. Well, since I LG
7? I felt like there's
So
more spouse.
I'll answer 1 and each of you guys will answer 2. And it'll be same as the Christmas special. Hey, no argument here. Ah.
Okay. I'm going to chip in.
And most of the questions and scenarios in the Ampaos are real life scenarios. Like I've seen them either in Reddit or I have friends myself who had something similar to this. And I'll dwell into the questions while we're answering it. So I'm just very curious on how each of us here will answer what's happening here. Okay.
Does the camera still a bit?
It is on charge. Smart
okay.
today. Okay. Woody gets the first draw.
Hot straw.
It's a good thing. Picture.
So I'm supposed to open it up.
Yeah, and the question is like,
Because you're with your friends, and on the crowded dance floor sits a Rolex tied with some converts, obviously dropped from someone's.
So random.
yeah. True story from my friend.
So are you serious?
Serious, yeah.
Rolex tied with some converts.
Yeah. Yes, basically a Rolex, and the middle as a watch sponge with all numbers, and it was on the dance floor. You saw it on the dance floor.
What kind of parties your friends go to?
Yeah, what would you do once you see this, and what will your reaction be?
My immediate instinct is to pretend I didn't see it and walk.
Wow.
But I think I would probably try to tell somebody that, I think someone has left this, whichever.
On the clubbing floor, in a club. Messy club.
So the way I would look at it is truly,
Yes, truthfully, yeah.
It will be a fake Rolex.
I would have said, I didn't see it. If you have a story to tell, I may take a photo or something, but I'm not going to touch it.
Right.
Wow, that's a very...
I would keep the Rolex and ask anybody drop a condom.
I don't hesitate. I mean, I would not hesitate to, take it.
When see that again. This is gentleman.
Yeah, gentleman, yeah. Very gentleman. Yeah, Dennis, what will you do?
Yeah, I thought it's warning. He's answering it.
I mean, what would you do in that scenario?
I would have to take if knowing the prices that would, I will still go for the Rolex. Yeah. So I can see where.
Yeah, you can see where Woody is, right?
Yeah.
Basically, this is also a true story. Because this happened when one of my friends,
In the UK?
no, in Malaysia actually, surprisingly, he had an Air King, and he had condoms that night, and he wanted to have a wild night with the girlfriend that day. So what happened in the club was the girlfriend then to mingle with another group of people, and the boyfriend got so angry that he took his Air King and his condoms, and he just threw it to the dance floor.
What a waste.
Yeah, but
And just let us know be ahead of time we will catch it. And I sold it to buy something else.
like catching the bouquet when someone get married, right? Yeah. But only when he woke up the next day, he recalled back what he did. Then he only remembered that he threw the egg.
Such a painful memory. None of us will ever be so foolish to do that.
But it's an interesting way.
But why? I mean, like, what?
What? Angry, stupid, who knows?
I'm not going to do that. Next.
It's a very interesting story.
Wow. This is
Get the next one.
Why am I?
What are you?
What am I getting?
You get
CNY time visiting your GS family. That is hardcore. Apologies. What watch in your collection will you wear? Easy lah. Casio F91. I will wear.
for sure.
Yeah, for sure, without any doubt. Like, yeah,
That's my answer.
if you judge me, then
Wear the cheapest thing,
but it's a bloody cool thing.
Yeah. Because he knows he won't. There's nothing much to critique about the watch.
Yeah. Would he?
Yeah, what would you?
So, big time horologist.
Big time, the Airy Cool. Your father-in-law is Airy Cool.
Even more, I would wear the F91. Can you please tell me?
I would want to wear that right. So that I did it. Yeah. So they all at almost guarantees most hardcore horologists. We not even know that. So they will leave that part. And all these going.
G-Shock.
Ah, where G-Shock?
I know your
Yeah.
Yeah. Impressive. Yeah, I think I'll go with the G-Shock and stuff. It cuts the conversation short. Nothing too much to dwell on it. If you would to wear a Rolex or a Cartier, he might be a hardcore, pure horologist who goes back to the era, or he like, the 5 digit sucks.
Actually, you turn it around, right? You did say GF, right? I would have just wore Apple Watch, like a smartwatch, and just see what his
I think
reaction.
it's more about cutting the conversation short. I want to have that conversation with him.
Interesting. I'm doing.
What is this? Why are you shuffling it? Shuffle. Then he shuffles the previous questions back inside.
No, it's all taken out. Taken out. What's yours?
See whether I checked. There's no money. There's no money.
Best friend of 30 years getting married on CNY.
30 years.
Rather than...
Yeah, this is local scenario.
Rather than what? Oh, ang pao.
Rather than kids,
He wants a watch. What will you get him? A friend of 30 years. And he wants a watch as opposed to ang pao. Wow. So many variables, man. It's like, is he even a watch guy?
Just
What other watches does he have?
But would you?
How much ang pao would I have given him?
F90.
I think I would just basically look for a watch in the price range of the ang pao that I was going to give him. So about 80 ringgit.
Saying F90, I don't know.
Well, you can buy on a ang option. Yeah, but I mean like to be
Yeah, based on the monetary value,
like
what?
serious lah, right? I'm like try to be serious. I think it would depend on what he already has. You know, I mean, the fact that he wants a watch means, okay lah, he's at least thinking about watches. So if he is a watch guy, then I think it would be really difficult. Right? But if he sort of like start just getting into watches, then yeah lah, depends on what he already has. Yeah, like if he's already got an Apple Watch, then I'll probably start him off with something automatic because easy, right? Easy to wear. But if he's got some other watches, then okay lah, I have to look for the gaps. Hard to say that. Yeah, but generally 80 ringgit.
Now we know.
Friend of 30 years.
It's not time on.
But long time to marry.
Maybe I can know Dennis when he was 6, but he also just got married.
It was 2.
So, I think I would try quite something. Because I echo what Vicky said about the facts. It depends on how much I would have wanted to spend.
Yeah,
for sure. And I would just find whatever makes the most sense based on my knowledge of him and what's available in the market. That if someone asked me a random question, for example, let's say that the answer was 2008, right? What's the best watch you buy about? I would have liked to say it's alright at current. So it would really hinge on the price of the other buy that we would there. And that would then decide what I'll get, which I bought.
Not very loose spawn.
So I was thinking 30 years, 80 ringgit, what? Unless in 30 years die.
There you go, his house pining is 1 ringgit.
Yeah, waste of time, I'm never going there.
I also cannot buy.
Like strap also cannot buy.
I've bought 80 ringgit watches before. Oh, they're perfect cheap.
I want to say which time, but never mind, we won't go there.
I think like
Casio E16. That's true.
I'll get the last.
But you already know, no. So I have to come.
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know.
Now you pick one after the date.
But that actually not really know. I can't remember. I can't really remember. This one. Okay, so I can answer because this is what happened to my uni friend. In what scenario of a friendship, years of friendship or survive an accident together, etc., would you then buy him an OP36?
Whoa.
Yes, 10 years. You mean what friendship? To me, right? To what the scenario of a friendship? I can't. Because, I mean, to buy an
Even if you buy at retail, it's 20 over. Yeah, it's a lot of money.
scenario of a friendship, you know, even if we survive an accident together or what, I don't believe in my capabilities or financial capabilities that I'm willing to do it. Because this actually just happened to one of my good friends. We went to uni together,
Right.
and one of his Hong Kong friends just bought him and himself an OP36. So they just had the big unveiling, blah blah blah, and the reason for purchasing an OP36 was because of their 10 years of friendship.
Wow, paying entire stuff.
Yeah, I will never buy it because I myself want to buy one for myself.
So to answer myself this, no way. I think in any case of a good friendship or what, you know, a Casio is I'll get the orange one and the yellow one, you know. Then that's a very good combo already.
I think that I will only do it if, let's say, that friend saved my kid's life or my wife's. Not even if he saved my life. my life not worth it. Yeah, but if you save my, anybody from my family,
Okay, yeah.
Then I think in a very China way kind of manner, right? I think it would depend on, let's say if I put a value on the stuff that say he or she has become as helped them through over the years, right? And let's say it's like because down in the dark still on nothing, and let's say these people were able to a certain amount of time to just get off the ground, I didn't go like I need back.
right.
Then right. In such a scenario, I've made it to a point where that doesn't matter for it. I can see myself doing it.
Yeah.
But it would have to be predicated by something as major as that
Life-changing event, right?
that would have made sense. That
With the current circumstances.
right. In all circumstances, I know that very generous anyway. I turn that almost as I can. Like without it, they eat me up also, right? Or Chinese to my kids. The straight away I know that but look at that. But it's like the rest of the work they do have bad. But the thing like not so is the estimate. Like I have to be able to quantify it. It's weird thinking that thought is like I can't see.
And because in our group of friends, you're saying 10 years of friendship is just too little.
Yeah.
Yeah.
30 years give you 80 angbao. 10 years you want to give OP yourself. Yeah. How do you plan this question? Okay,
like they're real people. Yeah, real people. Yeah, this is not very
That's amazing.
Yeah, real people.
Yeah, right. It's just friendship, It's
Just
not like
friendship.
life-changing. How long have we known then? Luckily, only less than a year. It's still a long time to work for. No, I was thinking then now I don't have to buy it.
Alright, Woody, second question for you.
See what other strange stories we invite it.
This is real This is real as well. This.
I lost my Rolex because I took it off while washing my hands and I left it in the toilet. Oh fuck! Reaction from you. I think the blood will drain from my face first.
Yeah, I don't think the wife will be.
Would you do it? Yeah. Would you
So the question is, what would you do?
Yeah. Or your reaction? Would you do the SOP thing like, okay, why not bring it to the police station? We go and do a report, or would you be like the rage like what Dennis? I will still like.
I think the blood will drain from my face for sure, but I can't be responsible for the first few words because they're probably going to be censored.
Yeah.
And we'll probably go on a hunt first. Like, are you sure? It's like, can you go back there and check if it's like the hotel or whatever? It's like, I know this is going to be almost impossible, but has anyone seen it? You exhaust all of that first.
Yeah. Talk to the building security, look at CCTV.
Correct. And do all of that first. But I know the first reaction is blood will drain. There will be choice words. But at the end of the day, it's then we explain the problem solving one and what you can do. That won't be my reaction. But I can definitely imagine blood draining and choice words.
Dennis the same. Just choice words.
I think the same, yeah. I think same also about
Then
me.
do the
But the
comforting
order is in reverse.
Check already, reach home, they only tiao.
Cannot imagine.
Hey, let's do this at the inches. You guys can try and choose.
One the other one's decided.
Yeah, already.
It's damn easy on a question. Maybe you can get the really easy one.
One of them.
So come on, easy
This one the count.
easy one.
You blowing my ass up. Still no money, bloody hell. One day you woke up from a coma and notice what? A call? Oh, sorry, all. Sorry.
Yeah, awesome.
All this was just a dream. Your followers, content, watches will be restarted in real life. Walao eh.
Would you restart this in real life? Yeah, that's the question.
No. Yeah. You like that time I think early part of late part of last year something happened to my account. Yeah. I decided at that point in time if it died I would just stop there. Yeah. It's paid already like
Would you? Actually, this question would very suit him. Actually.
yeah, and you will be you and your grow a lot. We have 5,000 something.
It was like,
Yeah.
I think if I woke up and all this a dream, right? And I build it in this question, right? Or are we talking about the fact that I lost the account?
No, it's all a dream. It was all a fantasy. Like 1 week of coma. Everything just happened. Like 9 months of memories.
What being a fantasy? My fantasy is watch what I would rather my fantasy that like, you know,
The one.
hot boy man.
Just giving all the
You
fantasy.
watching me the last what a sad life, yeah. Think about it, it's like in a coma.
I did shit by virtue, right? That I've actually not done it. I've like actually still. Because the whole premise is you wake up from a coma and realize that whatever you thought of was a dream, right? If it's still fun to me, I'll still do it because I've actually not done it yet. It was all a dream. I've not done it yet. And now I can visualize
Yeah, the whole process, right?
what it was. So I would probably still do it because I always started doing it from the point of fun and passion.
So
But I would. But I lost the account, but it would do exactly is what they should not.
I think
it's a lot of work anyway.
yeah.
Like when you report
For him, you know, if you're losing the account 15K, you know how devastating that is. You know, for us, we were only like 1K plus, and you posted the Aquanaut, and they thought it was a bomb.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then you had the account lockup.
where somebody like
Like another counterfeit one. Yeah.
actually all three of us got
Yeah.
Woody.
So at that moment, I would believe I wouldn't do it anymore. So, you know, we thought it wouldn't have affected us so badly.
Yeah, and I thought because like the girl gave me that drawing, right? I thought she was a scam. Like when she first sent me that I won that thing.
It was a very nice drawing.
Yeah, it's very nice of her as well. So I totally just didn't even reply her. She reminded me.
And WK got the easiest question. You
Really? You already know what it is.
Oh, well, like me, the
Yeah.
easy lah.
Now I don't believe you. Must be the harder.
No, really.
What is it? But there's so many words. Your partner wants to buy a watch that obviously don't suit you. Suits her.
Sorry, yeah.
Respect the decision or talk her out of it.
Actually, I don't see how that's easy.
Exactly.
I don't think it's easy for him because he's like, fuck it, whatever. You want what you want.
No, you obviously don't know my wife.
Or you know that you will not be able to talk her out of it.
I will talk her out of it.
They talk about it.
I will talk her out of it because I think she knows that watches is one of the very few subject matters in the entire universe I know something of. So, yeah. We didn't know that wife is great. Your wife is just fit into watches. Right?
Yeah.
So the question is, if I feel it doesn't suit them, would I stop her?
Yeah. Would you talk her out of it? Or would you just,
Yes, to Lisa, this watch addict.
yeah, later her watch become the worth it?
I would actually ask her for more clarity as to why she liking. Because first of all, I trusted this, right? And that would be really on. And so I really want to hear that out first.
Right.
And it comes to a point where I don't really agree. I just and if she walks away and say anything, right, then I'll tell her like, yeah, those things wrong. Yeah, but if she still wants it at that point, like just club about it, but yeah, so she got things better than go ahead. Yeah.
Daddy wouldn't care, right?
I think first and foremost, if it's my wife, is definitely my affair because I don't think my wife is into anything on watches. She's sick and tired of looking at it. Yeah. It's like, answer the questions.
Huh? Really?
Yeah.
Really? This Lane.
Let's talk her out of it. Yeah, I'll talk her out of it. How about you, Dennis? Sorry, Denson.
I would do what Woody does. Like after, if she's not gonna buy it, then we leave the shop. Say actually, then watch with shit one. No.
Handbag also you talked out of it, right?
But if she really likes it, she can buy it. But I will nag her. I will still nag her. If I see the watch, I'll still nag her, and I'll tell stories to everybody. Actually, this watch was very
Nice watch. You
insist.
because if you have those principles and your principles are clearly outlined as the part of your content, and then she goes all against it, it's like, hey,
No, like,
then when people see it, you can disavow any relationship. Man, watch is more important than wife goes. Okay.
disagree. All right, shall we end it here?
Oh, do you have any questions? We never do reversal rounds because do we have any?
No, I think it's like I myself use what's your plan.
None whatsoever.
Yeah.
Like how this podcast is.
Our best is just a young child on Tuesday. That's all every week. Yeah, but my kid's coming. I don't know what. 2 weeks time. So congratulations. This would obviously go for a final pause.
But before that, we wanted to have you first. So
Or you go for your new job as well.
yeah.
That's the here first.
So finally, me and Abu can go back to our normal life. Yeah. Is that nice? I will look for it. And what we time.
Right. Sorry.
Yeah, so thank you very much. Congratulations again for splitting seconds, for the achievements that you've made. Too humble. The achievements in Instagram is really astounding, fantastic work, and thank you so much for legitimizing our crap podcast by honoring it with your presence. Thank you.
Thank you for having
Thank you.
me. All right. Oh, I didn't need you.